Hey everyone, thanks for joining me on this quick tour of the new Gravity UI available in version 6 of Gravity. So we are very happy with how the web UI came out. First, it just looks a lot better, and second, perhaps more importantly, it does a better job of surfacing the underlying features of Gravity and makes them easier to use. So I'll just do a quick tour through the web UI of Gravity to show off some of the new shiny bits. Let's first get started with Gravity Hub. Gravity Hub is the cross-cluster control plane that is available in Gravity Enterprise. The first tab in Gravity Hub shows us which clusters are connected to the hub. So these clusters can connect to the hub from behind firewalls, and the clusters can also manage their connection to the hub if necessary. And we can also see a health indicator of the two clusters I have here. In the next tab, you can see the catalog section. This catalog shows us all of the cluster images and application images that have been published to the hub. What's somewhat unique about Gravity is that these cluster images contain all the dependencies necessary to get the cluster up and running. So all you really need is a modern Linux kernel to get Gravity up and running, and everything else is contained in these files. You could even download them and get them up and running in an air-gapped environment. Once the clusters are up and running, they can optionally dial back home to the hub, which is what we saw there in the first tab, the clusters that have been created and then dialed back home to the hub. The next tab gives you the ability to create a license so you can limit usage, say if you're running these or distributing these to your customer's infrastructure. And then the next tab shows us all the users that have access to the hub as well as the roles available for those users. So Gravity uses Kubernetes RBAC API to define the roles, and then you can create auth connectors using SAML or OIDC to your identity service, and then map those identities to different roles that you've created. Okay, so let's go back to the clusters tab and let's jump into one of these clusters. When we are viewing a cluster, what we're actually doing is connecting directly to that cluster through a reverse SSH tunnel. So the cluster is actually running somewhere else, say your customer's cloud account or a different region at your own cloud provider. The first view of the Gravity cluster UI is a dashboard that gives you an overview of the CPU and RAM usage of the cluster, the most recent activities in the audit log and operational activities, and then the applications installed in the cluster. In this case, we just have a naked Gravity cluster, so there's no other applications installed. The next tab lists all the nodes or hosts in the cluster, and I can quickly get a shell to the host just by clicking here, and we even have a web terminal interface that you could use. You can even upload and download files through this web interface, which is kind of neat. And then in the next tab here we have all the logs aggregated across the cluster. You could also forward the logs to an external logs aggregation solution like Splunk or Sumo Logic for more sophisticated analysis, although we do provide basic search capabilities here in Gravity. The next tab shows a more detailed audit log of all the security-related events that have happened across the cluster, so you can see things like logins and sessions. You can also even play back sessions, so Gravity records all the sessions that happen either through the UI here or even through a user's terminal. The next tab shows all the users and roles for the cluster, similar to Gravity Hub. And the next tab shows all of the Kubernetes primitives. So here we have config maps, pods, services, jobs, etc. for this Kubernetes cluster. You can also get a shell into an individual pod, which is pretty handy. Gravity also ships with Prometheus and a Grafana dashboard, which you can customize for monitoring of the cluster. And then finally, you can see we have the auth connectors and the certificates for the cluster. So let's go back to the nodes tab here. And so while this cluster just has a single node, it's pretty easy to add and remove nodes. You just click here and then you have the command that you can run on a Linux machine, and the node will then join the cluster. So that's a quick overview of the new UI. I hope you liked it. You can visit our website, gravitational.com/gravity, to download the community version and play around with it. The docs are also online, and we have a discourse community if you have any questions. You can also always reach out to us directly if you are interested in a demo of Gravity Enterprise, again, which includes the Gravity Hub and then enhanced compliance and security features, along with our enterprise-grade support. Take care.